You don't get better at being perfect, you just get better at hiding your imperfections. You are not meant to be God's finished saint. You are meant to be the mess that he is consistently working on now. Because I could walk into church and I could look so put together. I could have my nails done, my makeup done, I was wearing a veil, had the perfect shoes to go with the perfect dress, but internally I was a mess. I was anxious, I was depressed, I was struggling. Okay, hello, hi, welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time here. I don't know how you got here, but I am really glad that you are here. But I'm gonna need you guys to buckle up because this one's a lot. And a huge thanks to my patrons over on Patreon for voting on this week's video topic. If you guys want to check out my Patreon, it's linked below. So today we're talking about how I used to think being Catholic meant I had to be perfect. And now I very much so do not think that, obviously. And getting to that point of realizing, oh, perfection actually is not something that I can really be or do perfectly. You know what I mean? Like, yes, God calls us to be perfect as his Father is perfect, but at the same time, we are still human, we fall, etc. And so we have to just accept that. But yeah, it basically just, it broke me, rebuilt me. And yeah, the last 7 years have been absolutely crazy since I've reverted. So today I want to talk to you guys about that, so let's get into it. But really quick, before we do, I want to thank our sponsor, Gloria Patri. Gloria Patri is specialty grade coffee. It's Catholic owned, and they donate a portion of their sales to Catholic ministries. They've got a light, medium, and dark roast. The dark roast is great for espresso, might I add. The medium is nice and smooth with a nutty caramel finish. I often drink this one with just a little bit of creamer, and you can subscribe so you never run out of coffee. Use my code HIPPIE20. It gets you 20% off at gloriapatri.com. It's a great way to support this channel and my growing family, and you guys get coffee. So if you drink coffee anyways, you might as well make it mean something. Huge thanks to Gloria Patri for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back into it. Okay, so a little background for you guys. I was baptized Catholic. I was confirmed Catholic. I had my first Holy Communion. I have gone through all the sacraments of the church. But when I was around 11 or 12 years old, I fell away from the Catholic Church for about 8 years. I think that was like right after my confirmation is when I fell away, and then I ended up coming back right before the pandemic. So it was a great amount of time right there. And when I reverted, because I didn't really have an in-person community all that much, I had a little bit of one, but then obviously the pandemic hit and so all of that was shut down. I had basically absorbed this idea that in order to be Catholic, I had to be perfect. No bad days allowed. Like, God had this scoreboard and he was keeping track of like how many sins I was committing and how perfectly I was practicing my faith and stuff like that. And in my head, I was like, oh, if I didn't do this, then I was going to fail. I was going to disappoint him. I was going to become some sort of like cautionary tale, or even worse, end up in a priest's homily. And I want to be clear here, nobody like sat me down and told me you have to be flawless, you have to do this perfectly, or anything like that. It was kind of something that I absorbed from the online culture at the time, especially from the trad movement. And so I didn't really understand what it meant to be perfect necessarily, and how actually trying to be perfect was making me more imperfect than anything else. But I would see all these people at church who just seemed to have their life together. All the women would have their hair done and their makeup done, and all the guys would have like these vests and smoke cigars, and it just gave this look of, oh, I'm put together, I'm perfect, I know what I'm doing. And later I realized that that was actually a holier than thou kind of mentality that was coming through. But when I was a baby Catholic, I didn't know anything. It all just kind of piled up and it became very suffocating for me. I actually remember one Sunday before I left for Mass, I was watering some plants outside and I had completely forgotten to take off my neon lime green Crocs before going to Mass. I had never received so many judgmental looks, so many whispers, so many things, and then eventually the rumors did get back to me about it, and I was just like, it was a mistake. Am I not allowed to make mistakes? But that kind of like furthered me into this whole idea that like I have to just be better, I have to be more perfect. But if I'm being honest, kind of like what I mentioned earlier, you don't get better at being perfect, you just get better at hiding your imperfections. And that honestly was probably more exhausting than just being imperfect, because I could walk into church and I could look so put together. I could have my nails done, my makeup done, I was wearing a veil, had the perfect shoes to go with the perfect dress, but internally I was a mess. I was anxious, I was depressed, I was struggling, definitely wasn't praying every single day like I was supposed to be doing. It was just really, really rough. And I had some beef with Our Lady for a little while there too, which is so embarrassing to say now, but I'm just being honest with you guys. I had some beef. She's not the problem at all. It was definitely me. But at that time, to me, Our Lady was like this unreachable standard. Sinless, ever virgin, literally the mother of God. She would say yes to God without any hesitation, perfect prayer life, great husband, no fear, no like, oh, let me just wait and think about that for a minute, Lord. Meanwhile, I was just having full meltdowns over like the smallest things God was asking me to do, like giving up iced coffee. But the problem was comparison. I was still comparing myself to the literal Immaculate Conception, and I was comparing myself to all the other girls in church who looked like they had their lives together, but they were probably very similar to me. They probably were anxious on the inside, but they looked put together on the outside. And honestly, it wasn't just Our Lady. There were a plethora of different saints that I felt really disconnected from because they just felt out of reach. They felt too perfect. Like, how could they even experience or know what I was going through? Obviously, I was focusing on the wrong thing about those saints, but I'm just being honest with you guys about where I was in my journey at that time because it was lonely. It was very lonely and it was very anxious driven. And then slowly, you know, the cracks started to form over time. And it wasn't really like one dramatic crack that kind of let everything overflow. It was more like a slow leak of things just coming undone. And then it kind of dawned on me, which was a revelation from God, I have to assume from the Holy Spirit, that I basically spent my entire life terrified of God. This is the same God that I claim, I believe, has unconditional love for me, but I was absolutely terrified. Did I actually believe that God loved me? Like, I finally had the words to describe what I feel like I was kind of harboring in my soul for so long. It's like, I don't think I actually believe that God loves me. Instead, I think he tolerates me if I'm good enough, and if I don't sin, and if I try to be perfect. And saying that out loud really made me realize that the real issue I had was a wound. And it's really sad. Honestly, like, it was really sad when I realized that, because when I reverted and stuff, that's not what I learned. Like, my whole reversion story, Jesus coming to me in the Eucharist saying, "Do you trust me?" And all of that, like, clearly he loved me, but I was projecting a wound onto him that I had had from childhood and from teenagerhood and all that stuff. And it's like, no, God does love me. It's just that I don't feel lovable. So I did what any reasonable, unraveling Catholic does. I kind of went feral for a minute. I'm not gonna lie. I fell apart. I questioned everything. I struggled to go to mass. I avoided confession for a really long time. I was really angry, more at myself than at God, I'll be honest. I even considered quitting being a part of Catholicism and going back to my old life because I just felt like I would never be good enough. A lot of emotions were kind of happening at the same time. But then I actually started reading about the saints again, and actually reading them, not just like the fun flu parts or whatever. Like, I actually read their backstories, their biographies, things like that. And oh my goodness, have you actually read the stories of these people? They are a complete mess. And the church canonized them anyways, not because they're a mess necessarily, but because God made them perfect through their mess, because they allowed God to come in and change them. I guess basically they allowed themselves to be changed by God's grace. Nobody told me that growing up. Nobody revealed that to me when I was reverting. Or maybe they did and I just wasn't really ready to hear it, because that's very possible too. So I say this with a lot of love and a decent amount of exhaustion, because unlearning stuff is genuinely hard work. Being Catholic was never supposed to mean being perfect. It just means never giving up. It means showing up, going to confession when you slip up, making things right with God, allowing God's grace to work in you. It means going to mass on Sundays and holy days of obligation, whether or not you actually feel like going. Sometimes it even means being angry at God and being honest with him and bringing it to prayer and saying, God, I'm angry right now because X, Y, and Z. God can take it. God is not made of glass. God is our loving Father, and he is perfect. We are not perfect, but you know, through his grace, we are slowly refined, and he slowly makes us perfect, and his grace is made perfect within us. I still mess up constantly, by the way. I can be impatient. I still gossip. I still don't feel like going to mass sometimes, but I go anyways. And honestly, I still have some pretty big unresolved issues, I guess, or questions that I just know for a fact are going to stay mysteries. I'm never going to know about them until I die, and that's something I've come to peace with. But I think one of the main things is that I've stopped letting these things disqualify me from sainthood. Instead, I just try harder and harder, and every time I slip up, I just try and go back and, make things right again. I go to confession. I'm like, okay, this is a trigger, or this is something that I need to work on, and I just try. Something that I just wish somebody would have told me as a kid or as a revert is that Catholicism is not about being perfect. It's about not being perfect and God loving us anyways. Now, that's not an excuse to sin or to do bad things or anything like that. Like, oh, well, God's gonna love me anyways. Don't make the sin of presumption. But it does mean that he loves us and his mercy is given freely to us. And if we sin or we slip up, we have confession. And it's not that we are worthy, because at the end of the day, we're not worthy, but he invites us anyways. So we should show up anyways. So if you are watching this and you were similar to me, or maybe you have your own story about having this vision of needing to be perfect as a Catholic, I would love to hear it in the comments below, because you do not need to be perfect to be loved by God. You are not meant to be God's finished saint. You are meant to be the mess that he is consistently working on now. Every single perfect canonized saint was God's mess first. But yeah, I'm still kind of figuring this out, to be honest. I don't have everything figured out, and there are things that I'm still learning, and I'm just sharing with you guys as I learn these things and as I go through my faith journey, which is kind of a weird and vulnerable way to experience a faith life crisis situation. But you know what? Here we are, and it's fine. Everything's fine. But if this resonated with you, let me know in the comments down below. If you feel like this video might help somebody definitely share it with them. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out my Patreon linked below, and don't forget to check out Gloria Patri, our sponsor today. Alright, that's all I got for you guys. Don't forget to go easy on yourself this week and love the Lord. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!